So I already showed you Rachel Notley's announcement that under her NDP government, Alberta will no longer have the best tax rates in the country. It'll simply be one of the best, you know, top 5 provinces for sure. Here, listen to that.
And we will also maintain one of the most competitive tax systems in Canada.
Well, Notley said a few more things in that same speech that I want to show you now, like this.
Supporting existing oil sands projects, establishing new opportunities in our energy economy, and pioneering advanced technologies, all this requires investment on a large scale. So under our leadership, Alberta's abundant oil and gas reserves will remain wide open to investment.
Oh, really? So she supports the oil sands, eh? Funny. I wonder what her cabinet colleague David Eggen says. Here he is a few years ago saying what he thinks about more oil sands investments.
I say that doing the right thing means that we have no new approvals for tar sand projects. No new approvals! No new approvals!
Of course, Notley doesn't have to ban or block any oil sands applications. You'd have to be crazy as an oil sands company to put a proposal to open a new oil sands mine. Under Rachel Notley, this summer a huge oil sands mining proposal was withdrawn by the company that had been working on the deal for years. The company, called Teck, was on the fence about proceeding. After all, oil prices are low. They were undecided. But after Notley's election in May, they pulled the plug on a $20 billion deal. Notley didn't have to stamp no on their application. She just had to announce that she was raising corporate taxes, raising personal taxes, raising carbon taxes, opening up a royalty tax review. I like that line she uses. She's still open to oil sands investment, as in she will still allow people to put their money in the oil industry. What? Was she considering banning it or something? Was she considering nationalizing the industry or something? What does it mean when an NDP premier gives a speech while beaming her smile that she will still allow companies to exist and still allow them to invest? Well, I'll tell you what it means. It means she's going to tax the hell out of the industry. But sure, if you're a sucker, you can still put more money in. Here's another quick excerpt from her speech. Here, listen to her explain what she wants to do with the oil royalty review. That is, for the second time in less than 10 years, she wants to overhaul the rates that oil companies pay to the province to produce oil. Listen to what she says.
Now, just before I leave the energy industry, let me say a few words about Alberta's current royalty review. Now, our review panel is led by Alberta Treasury Branch CEO Dave Mowat. He is helping us with a process that I hope to complete before the end of the year. Now, this is an important review that is about modernizing and updating our royalty system so that it fits our energy industry for the future instead of the past. This review is about considering whether there are ways to better manage our royalties so that they better support processing, diversification, and value-added development with the associated jobs, growth, and stability here in Alberta. The time is past due, long past due, for the Government of Alberta to return to a responsible long-term approach to collecting and investing our royalty wealth so that we stop being the farmer who pays for the groceries by selling off the topsoil.
The first thing she said was she wants to tip the playing field against exporting oil towards those companies who would refine the oil in Alberta, I presume, as if there's a lineup of people who want to build $10 billion refineries, a 10-year proposal anyways. I think she's telegraphing, though, that she's going to punish those who want to sell our oil to customers, as in foreign countries, as in we can't just let foreigners have our precious oil. Hey, do you think the NDP would ever have a rule that we couldn't sell cars made in Ontario? We had to sell them in Canada to displace Japanese imports? The NDP would never touch unionized auto worker car exports, but you heard it here first. I predict she's going to punish oil exporters. And that part at the end about selling off topsoil to pay for groceries, I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard about oil and gas. But I guess that's what comes from not having a single person in her entire caucus of more than 50 MLAs who has ever worked in the oil and gas industry. I mean, that would be like electing an entire government in Newfoundland and not having a single politician who's ever set foot in a boat. Yeah, selling oil to customers is not like a farmer selling his topsoil. Topsoil is a farmer's tool. Wheat is what he produces to sell. Oil is not the tool. It is the product to sell. I wonder if Notley really is this low information about oil, or if she just thinks we are. I think it's both, actually. Here, look at this website. It's the official website for Notley's royalty review, where she compares producing oil, in this case, to making pasta. Yeah, comparing the oil sands to a pasta making machine. Gee, can you tell that her chief of staff and that the energy minister's chief of staff are both anti-oil sands activists from Toronto who really don't know anything about oil other than they don't really like it? All right, next, listen to this little nugget from the speech.
And this review is about ensuring that as prices recover, we collect and begin to save an appropriate share of our own resource wealth in the Alberta Heritage Trust Fund for the future of our children and our grandchildren.
That's Rachel Notley talking about putting money back into a provincial savings fund called the Heritage Fund. It was something started decades ago under Peter Lougheed, basically collecting taxes or royalties and saving them, not spending them. A savings account? Alberta has the largest deficit in its history right now. We don't really know how big it is because Notley refuses to bring in a budget until after the federal election is over to avoid embarrassing Thomas Mulcair. But it's going to be a huge deficit. There's no chance she'll be in a surplus position before her term is up. But she's talking about squirreling savings away, really? Hey, have you ever heard in the history of your life an NDP politician having money, maybe even billions of dollars, and not spending it? I'm sorry, I don't think an NDP politician is genetically capable of saving money. I think Rachel Notley's just saying words, just using cliches that she doesn't even understand. It makes no sense to have the highest deficit in Alberta history and to talk about saving a surplus. But this next one is a real head scratcher. This has puzzled me. Here, take a look at this.
Canadian energy strategy will also help us as we address a key challenge facing the energy industry in this province, which is, of course, the need to improve our access to new world markets, which means essentially getting at least one new pipeline built to Tidewater. Now, your government is working on this matter through drama-free, ongoing discussions with our key provincial partners in British Columbia, Ontario, and Quebec.
So Notley says she wants to build a pipeline to Tidewater, as in to a coast, so that we can ship oil to foreign countries other than the United States, which right now buys almost all our oil. Well, hang on, just this week, Notley said that, like Hillary Clinton, she's against the Keystone XL pipeline, which has already been approved by Canada's National Energy Board. Notley has repeatedly said that she's against the Northern Gateway pipeline too. That would go to the BC coast, again approved with conditions by the National Energy Board. So she's already come out against two approved pipelines. Notley's Chief of Staff, Brian Topp, ran the British Columbia NDP's campaign last time that was also against the proposed Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain oil pipeline to the coast. And now he's running Notley's government. And of course, Notley has, time and again, railed against exporting any crude oil to any other country. Here, listen to her. This is in the legislature this summer after she was elected.
Our position on the Keystone was that if we ship unprocessed bitumen to Texas, according to this government and to the American government, we will give tens of thousands of Alberta jobs to Texas, not to Albertans.
She loves calling crude oil unprocessed raw bitumen to make it sound very exotic that we want to export it, as we have been doing for decades. So if she's against the Keystone XL pipeline, if she's against the Northern Gateway pipeline, if her senior advisors and half of her top appointees ran BC's anti-pipelines campaign for the NDP there, just what pipeline does she support? Oh, I don't know, maybe the Energy East pipeline that hasn't even received regulatory approval yet, let alone starting construction? And if she supports it, why won't she say it? Either this is a total shift in her policy on pipelines, a total 180-degree turn, or she's just BSing her way through a speech. I don't know. Does Rachel Notley now suddenly support exporting oil to China? Have she and her staff changed the passionate position they've held for 10 years? Look, I'll tell you what I think's going on. Rachel Notley does not understand oil and gas. She thinks selling oil is equivalent to a farmer selling his topsoil. She thinks it's like a pasta machine. Those are a child's understanding, or a New Democrat's understanding, or her Toronto Chief of Staff's understanding. The speech is internally contradictory. It's delusional that you can impose punishing new oil sands taxes, but that you'll generously allow companies to continue to invest in the oil sands? That you're all for a pipeline to the sea, but you'll punish companies that want to export oil? Here's a piece of advice. Ignore what Rachel Notley says in her speeches, especially speeches written by her Toronto staff. Don't listen to her. She doesn't understand what she's saying. Don't expect that you will. To understand Rachel Notley, just look at what she's doing. Raising tax after tax after tax, most of them targeted at oil and gas. Look at what she's doing, not what she's saying. She's not here to build Alberta's oil patch. She's here to bury it. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.